Alright, this is going to be my Street Fighter 2 Arcade 1-Up Capcom Legacy Edition cabinet review. I'm going to cover this arcade cabinet in depth, and we're also going to deep dive into the game Street Fighter 2 and the various versions, discussing their history and the difference between them so you can be in the know after this. Alright guys, I know there's a lot of reviews on this cabinet out there already, and I don't want to waste your time just going over the same stuff. So I'm going to be thorough. I'm going to cover the pros and the cons, but I'm going to tell you right from the beginning, this is a cabinet you should absolutely own, and I'm going to break down why right here. All right, guys, I'm going to get right into the stuff everyone's talking about so we don't have any concerns and we can talk about the good stuff. But it is important to note some of the issues that are out there, so I'm going to cover those. I'm going to do this as a precursor, all right? Anytime you're buying an arcade 1-Up cabinet, you are not buying a full-size arcade. This is not a solid wood piece of furniture. This is like furniture you get from Walmart that's made of MDF and basically stickers or vinyl, and that stuff eventually is gonna peel. You have to be more careful with it. It's eventually not gonna hold up in the long run. This is not designed to last forever. It is, however, a pretty solid construction and a well done product that comes in at a price point that is relative to its quality. So stop operating where you're on a ramen noodle budget and you're wanting steak and caviar, okay? You're gonna get what you're getting, a 3/4 size at-home cabinet that can be played and enjoyed as long as you have the right mindset. Now, jumping right into it, obviously, the biggest complaint with this thing is the way they've done the marquee now. As you're standing, I'm 5'11", you can see that the screen, my view is obstructed here. I cannot see the full screen. That's true for pretty much anyone 5'9" and above. The solution to that is really simple. Let me show you this. It's called a stool. You're gonna sit down. And that's really the only solution with this cabinet. If you're buying this, know that this needs to be a sitting cabinet for you, okay? Aside from that, the control panel, a lot of folks are complaining the control panel is set too low. Unlike the original cabinets where you had the free-falling edge on the control panel, you now have a bit of a lip from the side panel as it sits lower than that. I've heard people have raised these up by using spacers, which is probably the easiest way. You could also re-drill and reposition the block underneath to raise this up level, but it's still going to maintain the same problem in the fact that the side art, which is fully exposed all the way up to the top, will now peel when your hand is resting there. If I'm playing 2 players, my hand's resting on the edge, thus meaning I'm eventually gonna peel this artwork off. Now, if I'm playing 1 player, which is what I primarily use this cabinet for, if I'm being honest, my hand's not there, so it's not really a concern. If you were to raise the control panel up as well, keep in mind you will have a gap here, so you either need to cut a new piece, wrap it in some black vinyl and reposition it, or you're just gonna have to deal with it, and that's the reality of it. Keep in mind too, if you do decide to go that route, that unlike your earlier edition cabinets, the groove for these is not a slot that allows you to drop it in. It's instead a pre-cut slot for this size. So you're gonna have to route out a bigger hole or notch out your piece here that you replace it with so that it fits there, but still extends the rest of the way underneath the control panel. So keep that in mind. My personal recommendation, don't modify it, guys. Just leave it as it is and understand it's a sit-down cabinet. Now on to some of the good things. This cabinet absolutely wins the day by doing the fake coin door instead of the games list. I've always thought the games list was the worst thing about the bottom kick plate here on these cabinets. I just don't like the way that it looks. It's a consistency among each cabinet, and that consistency takes away from the unique value of the artwork. Of course, you can replace it with vinyl, but you don't need to if you have this coin door here. It's actually a very good look. The aesthetics of this cabinet are 10 out of 10. This is the reason that I bought it on the website to begin with. I'd already read the reviews, already understood that there were complaints out there, and I knew what I was getting into. I just said this is gonna have to be a sitting cabinet, number one, and this is gonna be one of my in-piece cabinets, so I can see that artwork because I just love it and I think it looks great. I'm buying this cabinet for the aesthetic. Of course, you have the fantastic backlit marquee, but the biggest bragging point on this cabinet is gonna be the gameplay. Now here's the thing, this comes with 12 games. 6 of those games are Street Fighter titles, which I've also heard a lot of people complain about. But in my personal opinion, the best release they had in Gen 1 was the Final Fight cabinet because of its game selection. I mean, 1944, Strider, Ghosts and Goblins, and Final Fight all in one cabinet was a win. To do 12 games here, and to include all of those titles, then you're throwing in Commando and Darkstalkers, you're not only getting the best of what's out there from the Street Fighter 2 collection, but you're also getting unique gameplay from different games without sacrificing game control usability. Now, what I mean by that is with their other legacy cabinet, the Mortal Kombat, for example, you have games like
Help is here!
Root Beer Tapper, where it's not a 4-way joystick, so that's going to affect your gameplay just a little bit. You have, Rampage, which doesn't have 3 joysticks, that's going to affect your gameplay. This is basically 12 games that all utilize the controls in the way that you would expect. There's no limited gameplay amongst these games. I've heard a lot of people make complaints about the fact that you basically have 6 of your 12 games that are just different versions of the same game. Now let's speak to that a little bit. What I want to do in this video is jump directly into the history of the Street Fighter II game franchise and talk about the differences between these versions, because that's what a lot of people are not talking about. These games definitely vary. In short, guys, this is a great cabinet to have if you already have a few Arcade 1-Up cabinets and you're adding to your collection. I wouldn't recommend it if it's your only cab, but it's a great one to own. For people who know this Street Fighter series, especially when it comes to Street Fighter 2, these 5 versions of Street Fighter right here are unique in their own right. Some more similar than others. Let's go ahead and break that down here. Alright guys, getting into the history of the game Street Fighter 2. Now keep in mind there have been many ports to this game on various systems and beyond. I'm not going to get into all those. I'm going to focus on the 5 that are on this legacy cabinet. First up, of course, is the original Street Fighter II, which was released in 1991. This game featured 8 playable characters in addition to 4 bosses that you fought at the end called Grand Masters. In addition to the arcade version, this was very popular on the Super Nintendo game console. Next up was Street Fighter II Champions Edition. This is in a lot of ways essentially the same game, but it did have a few upgrades, and one of the main upgrades, or perhaps the most significant, was that you could now play as the 4 Grandmasters, giving you a total of 12 playable characters. This, of course, was a very exciting advancement in the game, and it was also featured on the Mega Drive as well. After that, Street Fighter II Hyper Fighting, or as we know it, Street Fighter II Turbo, was created in response to a Street Fighter II Rainbow Edition, which was developed by bootleggers, in which they basically just took the game and sped up the gameplay. That took notice amongst the people over at Capcom, and they decided to release their own called Street Fighter II Turbo. This was very popular on the Super Nintendo, and at the time was by far the most exciting version of the game. Followed not long after by Super Street Fighter II, The New Challengers. This was an incredible game released in 1993 with the most significant upgrade yet from Capcom, as they made the adjustment from their Capcom System 1 board to the Capcom System 2 board. This, of course, changed a lot for the game in terms of graphics, overall speed, and some playability features as well. There were also some new additional moves incorporated with the characters, and the most significant upgrade was that it featured 4 new characters, reaching a grand total of 16 characters in total. And then the most popular title of them all, Super Street Fighter II Turbo, the Ultimate Championship. This was released in 1994 and is by far the greatest of all of their releases. It featured a number of upgrades, an insane number of upgrades if we're being honest. New character traits. There were new graphics for each character. They were upgraded graphically. Also a new intro to the game, which was very sweet. It featured new character portraits and background scenes for each of the levels. It also took new sound effects and new music, created a altogether different soundtrack for the game. There was adjustable play speed, so you could play at the standard speed of the original Street Fighter II or the new turbo speed that people had become accustomed to, and a brand new character in Akuma. Akuma is essentially a secret character who's unlocked by making it all the way to the end to fight M. Bison without using a continue, achieving a new high score, and doing that all in under 25 minutes. This will lead to a really cool scene where Akuma hops on the screen, takes out M. Bison for you, and then challenges you to a fight. At this point, you're fighting this unnamed character. As you see at the top, he does not have a name. His profile picture is all black. It was the greatest surprise mystery fight ever known in the fighting world. It was truly a sight to see. This Akuma was supercharged in so many ways, had enhanced abilities as you fought him, and he was very difficult to defeat. I point out his enhanced abilities because you could also unlock Akuma by punching in a code in the character selection screen and actually play as him. However, the version of Akuma you could play as was in no way the match of the evil twin. The boss Akuma had those enhanced abilities that were not accessible when you were fighting as him. So it definitely added another level of challenge. This game also featured 2 new combinations. There was the super combo, which was accomplished by filling the super meter at the bottom and then pressing a particular key set. In addition, you had an air combo where you could attack a person, launching them into the air, and while they were airborne, you could manifest an air combo, which was brand new to the characters as well. This made the gameplay intensely exciting. This was by far the best game in the franchise. That's it. Those are the 5 Street Fighter II titles that are found on your Arcade 1-Up Legacy Edition cabinet. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you watching. It's been a blast. We'll be sure to do it again soon.